Hello, and welcome to Postcards from a Soul and Her Human. I'm the human Gina. I want to thank you for joining me today. As always, I appreciate your presence very, very much. It makes what I do make sense. So thank you for that. I am on, I think started the last two episodes with this similar statement that I'm on an incredible ride right now. I'm in a concentrated period of integration right now, where I am integrating what was delivered via the last lunar eclipse and the harvest full moon combination. And I talked about this in the last episode. It has delivered a very powerful wave of energy of transformation and it has not been short of revelations. And it's been a while since I've really experienced any epiphanies or really big realizations. That's not entirely true about myself and about who I am as a human being. I've had a few recently about existential things or cosmic things, but this was an incredibly illuminating period of time for me. And I was and this is interesting because the universe isolates me for a period of time when needed, so I am not disrupted or I do not get distracted from what's happening in my body. And I noticed this in of course, the first couple of years of my isolation after my uh, energetic breakdown. It was during COVID-19, and I didn't go anywhere. I could have been on a mountaintop in the Himalayas. That's how isolated I was. Besides going to work every day to my business. But this happened once before in April when I had after the solar eclipse, which was another very powerful celestial event, where I was quarantined for 7 days because I thought I might have contracted measles, which was crazy. And of course, I did not, but it was the universe's way of saying you're not going anywhere for a week. You have to integrate what's come into your body. And it was extraordinary. I ended up having a spontaneous knowing about co-creation. I wrote an article called Resurrection of the Goddess during that period, and I did 2 episodes about the subject matter as well. And it was an incredibly rich, powerful, transformative time for me. Well, this lunar eclipse has been very similar. I've had the same concentrated period of time. So far, I've been on my own. I haven't seen my daughter or granddaughter in more than a week. And of course, it's not because I isolated myself. It just happenstance or serendipitously that she's been busy and hasn't needed me to come over. Therefore, I've been home. And it's been rainy, and I've not gone really anywhere, and I've ended up home in a very introspective phase due to the power of this energy cycle that has come in through my body. And it did not leave me unamazed. I have been honestly in awe every single day for more than a week now. It's what has been happening in my life. And outwardly, absolutely nothing has been happening. It's so interesting to be in the middle of this roller coaster ride that I'm on spiritually, where you can look at me and my life and say, well, nothing at all is going on, and that's absolutely true outwardly. But I am in a very powerful transformative phase, and it's no mistake because I believe I'm due to come into union with my twin flame in just the next few weeks. So this is all a time period for me to get ready for that, to become reinforced in the ways that I didn't realize I needed reinforcing. And that's what the highlight or the pinnacle of this transformative wave of energy that came through me. I woke up one morning about a week ago, and I looked around my room, and I realized that I had fully embodied my alien self. I have fully embodied the energetic expression of my soul within this body. And I wrote in my book that it felt like I was a giant lying in my bed, and that my body, this frame of my molecular body, has finally been expanded enough through these celestial events and through my awakening and awareness of what's happening, and my intention to be an active part of it instead of allowing it to happen to me. I realized that this expansion and ascension has allowed the space for the full embodiment of my cosmic being to inhabit this body. So what I mean by that is I still look the same. I'm still a petite woman in her early 60s, but I have embodied an absolute goddess in this human frame energetically. And from what I understand, my lineage is very particular, and I've been learning a lot about this lately. And I haven't really spoken much about it, and I probably won't much now. But what I've learned about myself is that I have an ancient soul, that I have been at this for a very long time, and that I have been living lifetime after lifetime in an effort to evolve myself to the point that I have reached in this lifetime, which is to embody my true self in a human form, so I can live the rest of my life in this embodiment, or as this embodiment. And I've talked many times before how I've been able to let go of the humanness, and I'm using air quotes, which would be the ego-driven life. I've been able to shed that, and it's been described to me that I suffered several or multiple ego deaths to get here. And so I feel like I'm fully embodying this ancient soul, and I am ready for this next phase, which is going to be interesting and possibly turbulent for me. I mentioned in the last episode that the tarot readings have returned, and I talked about my timidness to return to viewing them every day, because I didn't want to feel like I was cheating on my tarot sobriety. I didn't want to lean on a resource that I didn't need anymore. But I quickly learned through an incredible series of events, and I'll describe one of them really quickly because it's fun and interesting. But when I go on to my video channel at my lunch hour, I usually watch a video or two while I'm eating. This is where my tarot readings populate in the suggested videos grid I look at it on my PC, not my phone. And in the upper right-hand corner, throughout time, the last 3 years, and the year and a half or so in the beginning where I viewed the tarot on a regular basis, the message that populated, or the video that populated in the upper right-hand corner, was usually the one that had the most relevance to what I was going through at the time. It was a current message. So I would usually go to that one first, or another that I was drawn to. Well, these videos started again, and I accidentally started viewing them. And what I mean is I opened a video I was drawn to that did not appear to be a tarot reading. It was a Swedish medicine woman talking about energy and all the things that I've learned about over the last few years about living a life from a cosmic perspective and not just a human egoic perspective and all that stuff. And she's a sound doctor and some other things. And she was really beautiful and brilliant, and I was enjoying her video. And then all of a sudden she went into doing a tarot reading, and I almost turned it off because I thought I was almost like I'm getting caught doing something I'm not supposed to do. But I remained out of a sense of just knowing that I was meant to view it. And the reading was incredible. And I mentioned in the last episode or the one before that it was full of everything that is coming for me in the near future. It covered everything that I learned in the first year and a half of the tarot, about the travel that I will be undertaking, and the fact that my professional life is going to take off like a rocket, and that I will come into union with my twin flame, among several other things. So it was an all-encompassing summary of everything that I already knew, but it's currently an energetic resonance. So it's back, and this is a new crop of readings to help guide me into this next phase. Well, the next time I viewed the tarot, I'm sorry, I looked at my video channel, I saw a message that I was drawn to, but instead of clicking on it, I was eating my lunch, and I know that I take notes during these tarot messages. So I said, you know what? I can't take notes and eat. So I'm just going to look at a comedy video first. And then if that video is still there, and this is how I trust what's meant for me, if I click out of it into a different video and I click back to the suggested pane or the home page and it's still there, I know I'm meant to look at it. So I clicked into a comedy video. I enjoy Will and Grace clips or clips from the Graham Norton show and Saturday Night Live, stuff like that. So I'm looking at this, I open up this comedy clip compilation, and as soon as it opened, the audio was all distorted. And it was just, you couldn't understand anything. And it was really kind of like fingernails on a chalkboard, the way it sounded. So I quickly clicked out of it. And there stood the video that I missed. So I ended up watching the video. And then it was relevant, of course, to my journey. And I took the notes and I cataloged it with all the rest. And then the next day, when I went back in with my lunch again, I had the same idea. I'm going to eat first. And I saw a video I was very drawn to. It was not in the upper right-hand corner. I was scrolled down the pane a little while, and I got to a part where I saw something I was drawn to, but right next to it was a Will and Grace compilation. I'm like, you know what? I'm eating. Let me click on that. I clicked in the compilation video, and again, the sound was grossly distorted. So I laughed as I realized that I'm not supposed to. I got to go right to this reading. This is what my spirit team, my soul team, my family, my spirit guides want me to look at, and they don't want me messing around. So they distorted the audio in that video again, and I clicked out of it immediately. And the video that was right next to it, which was down probably 5 or 6 rows from the top, was now at the very top right-hand corner. And I said, okay, I hear you. I got it. I won't mess around anymore. I'm looking at this video. So what happened in the first 6 days of this isolation that I've been in, and I'm on day, it was last Friday. So what is it, 9 days, 9 days now into this isolation period. There was I'm sorry, for these first 6 days, there was a series of videos every single day about my twin flame and the situation or the mindset or the heart set that he's in when I will meet him. And I've been shown my twin flame for more than 3 years now. Not specifically, I know who he is. I was led to his picture and I know his name, and I said this before, but I don't really know much about him, the man, the person. And these series of videos, which I'm going to talk about the first 6 days, but they're continuing on. When I look at my video channel suggested page, there's 3 or 4 every day. And I can only open one because they take a lot of energy for me to take in, and then I take a bunch of notes and I have to integrate it. It's a practice now that I follow. So I generally don't look at more than one reading in a day. So these 6 days contain readings about this person, this man, and who he is in his life right now. And I'm not going to go into detail because this is personal information, but let me just suffice it to say that the relationship I thought I was walking into, which was a man who is ready for me, is not what's meant to be. It's not what's going to happen. And what I remember, of course, back early in the tarot readings, the original tarot readings, and I'll refer to the old ones as original and the new ones as modern. And in the original readings, it was told repeatedly that once we met, we would go through a period of separation. And I just assumed, because he's from New Zealand, that he lives in another country and we're not going to be able to see each other, or we'll be separated by time and by distance. But that's not the case at all. And I do know that he likely lives, excuse me, nearby because his business is nearby. So anyway, these messages are basically talking about a man who is not in the heart space of a person that I would expect to meet. And let me just put it that way. So the separation, the period of separation, is going to be because of a misalignment of our frequencies. So we're not going to be on the same energetic frequency when we meet. That's going to cause a disturbance, which is going to cause a separation. And there's a whole other thing going on there. And I'm not going to discuss that until I have his permission someday, because it's highly personal for him. If it were me, I would tell you I don't care what you know about me. As you can tell, I'm an open book. But this is about someone else, and it's not my place to share. So I'm going to go through a period of separation with this person. And then from what I understand, that's going to be temporary. And once our resonation or our frequencies are more aligned, we will come back into union again. And that's when this love will blossom. So these messages, of course, coincide with another tarot message that I received just 2 days ago. Everything goes together. It is amazing. My relationship with my ex-husband, all of this now, everything that I've experienced in my life, truly from the very beginning, has come into a summarized, um, wow, how do I word this? It's been summarized for me to accentuate a certain point or to highlight something that I needed to understand before going into this union. This was the most remarkable thing that one of the most remarkable things that I've experienced, and I have a book full of remarkable things. I received a reading 2 days ago about my twin flame, but more about me and who I am and why I'm in this incarnation and why I've come into this contract with my twin flame, and also my karmic soulmate, who was my ex-husband. And it talked about how I am an intuitive. And I've never really thought of myself this way. And I think this is something that intuitive people miss is I've always been extremely intuitive. I could walk into a room and I can feel the energy of the room and I know if I want to stay or not. I don't have to know anyone. I don't have to speak to anyone. This has been throughout my entire life, but the difference between who I am now, this fully embodied goddess, and who I began in this life is quite different, actually diametrically different. And this reading talked about how as a young child, really when this karma that I brought into this lifetime was activated by the parents that I chose, I was always told that I was too sensitive, that I needed to toughen up, and that my sensitivity was discounted or even persecuted. I was told that I was wrong for what I thought and felt and spoke. So I learned to push it down into my body, which is, I think, a lot of people learn to do with one element of their personality or another. And throughout my young adulthood and into my older, when I was a full-blown adult, this sensitivity has always been with me, this intuitive gift, but I've never really learned to engage with it. I didn't trust it. And this was described to me in this reading as I was given this sensitive gift as my primary tool to navigate this life, and especially to get me to where I am. And that it's been basically persecuted my whole life. And because I didn't trust it, and this is the line that really blew my mind and really turned into an incredible realization, a revelation for me, is the reading said, so you looked outside to others to validate how you felt. And in a moment, it just opened up like the clouds from over the sun, this understanding of the primary karma that I brought into this lifetime. And that's described. I've always said victimhood was my primary karma. This is the one thing that I've always been in my life. I was a victim of other people's darkness. And I don't mean evil. I mean their dark shadow. They're living in their ego, their shadows, not working through their karma yet. Or I should say they are working through their karma and then using me to do it. So these people were all a mirror for me, always challenging my ability to trust my own instincts. And of course, when I didn't, I fell prey or became a victim of whomever that challenger was. And the biggest example of this is my last marriage, where I was married to a man who was emotionally vacant. And I describe him as an emotional vampire. And this is a person who doesn't have access to their emotional tools. This is a person who doesn't feel much empathy. This is a person who has, and I'm not saying this about him at all, who can be a sociopath or who could not feel pain or anguish or anything when faced with someone else's pain. So this is an unempathetic person who you can imagine without empathy and compassion what's possible for that person to how that person could behave in the world. So I'm not calling my ex a sociopath. I'm not equipped to do that. He never harmed me physically. It was all emotional. So what I learned though from this reading was that when I didn't trust my intuitive gift, which has always been incredibly sensitive, I relied on him to validate what I was feeling. So, as for an example, the very first time I noticed this tendency in him was 9 years into our relationship. And you have to understand the scope of this relationship was almost 25 years. And it was meant to be as long as it needed to be for me to have this ego death at the other end of it. So the length and depth and the infrastructure of this relationship was all very purposeful. But I remember a situation with him where we were in business together and we're working on taxes, or maybe it was before that. I don't know. I think we just went into business with each other. I had just left my role as a manager at a corporation, and I thought I was going to be a life coach and to be on a panel of people on an internet show that I spoke about. That didn't work out. I ended up working with my ex-husband, and we ended up with these businesses together. And I was working on the taxes, which was supposed to be his job. And I got frustrated. I got to the point where I said, "What are you doing? You said you were going to take care of this. Now we're down to the wire. I have to get this to the accountant in 2 days and nothing's done. What are you doing?" And I remember he looked at me and said, "I can be really selfish sometimes." And I was just so far taken aback that I didn't know what to say. And of course, my intuition was screaming at me that these are red flags all over the place. And I did what I always had done because I didn't trust my intuitive instincts. I pushed them down and I went ahead and finished the work myself and got it to the accountant on time and took care of it like I always did. I took care of things. That's what I did. And that's what you learn to do. So anyway, fast forward a few years later, and I apologize. That wasn't the 9th year. That was early in. The 9th year is when things started to go crazy. But when I started to notice that he was out of alignment, and what I mean is that he would say things to me, but he wouldn't follow through, or his actions were different than what he told me. So I started to really notice, even though I was ignoring my intuitive instincts, I started to notice that what he was saying was not in alignment with how he behaved with me. And I would ask him, "What's going on? I feel like you're not who you say you are. You're not doing these things that you said you would do." And there's a whole long story here, and you can listen to the episode, The Catalyst, if you want to hear the story. I'm not going to regurgitate it here. But we ended up on this roller coaster that ended with my breakdown, where he basically told me that what I thought was completely wrong and I was crazy and I shouldn't think that way and there's something wrong with me for not believing him. Well, this was the biggest example of me asking for validation from the person in my life, especially a romantic person, and not trusting my own instincts. So when he didn't validate what I thought, I just trusted him. And this is really what that one line in this reading exploded into my body, that I have not only not embraced my intuitive gift, but I allowed others, because I didn't trust it. And I put it this way in my book, because I didn't trust my own instincts, my own intuitive knowing about this person, I allowed him to feed on me until I died. And if you imagine a vampire sucking the blood out of someone's neck, that's the picture I want you to see, because that's essentially what happened. Because I kept ignoring my own intuitive knowing, I allowed him to tell me that I was wrong and that I was imagining things. And because I trusted him, I allowed him access to my energy, to my light, to my life force, is basically what I gave him. when I stayed in his energy field as a victim. So I always thought this victim thing was its own animal, but it's truly just a symptom or an expression of the fact that I didn't have access or didn't trust my own intuition. And this was a revelation for me because I never thought of it this way. I never thought that this sensitive gift in my body, and I know that there's many that will relate to this, was an asset. I always thought it was a burden because it would show me things that no one else saw. And if I couldn't get that validated in a tangible way, then I ignored it. I thought it was a nuisance. And I imagine that people with other intuitive gifts, like psychics or mediums or whatever, initially feel this way as well. That you're bothered by this other voice, this otherworldly or this additional sense, and you don't understand it. So you discount it or even deny it. And because I denied this gift, I lived a life of its karma. I lived a life where others mirrored this. And what I mean by mirroring, so if I came to you and I am not trusting the fact that I don't like who you are energetically, but you tell me you're a good person and I trust that, you're testing my ability to listen to my intuition. And if I don't, I'm just going to suffer with him or her. And that's what I always did. So that's the mirror showing me that yes, you're intuitive, but if you ignore it, you're going to suffer. I'm showing it to you right here. You just got to look. And that's what mirroring means. That's what it means. It illuminates this gift and then further illuminates my inability to embrace the gift and to live a life connected to it. So I had to die from being energetically drained by a man who had no empathy because I allowed, and this is the double-edged sword of empathy too, I allowed my empathy, my empathetic body, and I happen to be, and I think this goes hand in hand. With an empathetic person, you're usually also intuitive because they have to be, they're the same frequency. So an empathetic person can see someone below the personality because I'm empathizing with you on an energetic level. If I'm empathizing on an energetic level, I can sense you on an energetic level. That's intuition. So I am an empathic intuitive, basically. But they go, I believe, hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. So what I allowed to, instead of my intuition guiding me away from this danger, I allowed the empathy, which was easier for me to identify with as a victim. Hear me out here. And I allowed the empathy to overtake me. And that empathy and compassion always forced me or led me to take care of the other person before I took care of myself. And this is the reason why most people go into the helping arts. They go into being psychologists or psychiatrists or life coaches, which is what I did, or even the healing arts, which I don't know to the extent. I'm not going to have an opinion on that, but we want to fix others because we're looking for a way to fix ourselves. So by me being here for you in this deep empathy and compassion, maybe by osmosis, I can heal myself. But this is the reason why we can't heal ourselves while we're deep in the three-dimensional ego, in the egoic era of our existence, because we're always looking outward for this healing. So the ego isn't comfortable going inward because the ego doesn't understand the inner landscape, which is vast. This is the connection to source or to your higher self or to your spirit guides, which I have a full family of them who I speak to multiple times a day, who speak to me in multiple ways, including the tarot. So when we look outward, and I should say me, I'm not going to lump anyone else into this, but I know this is a human condition. When we look outward to be healed, all we're doing is calling these mirrors into our lives, which is the universe saying, I hear you, I'm going to help you heal, but since you're externally looking for it, here's a mirror for you to look in. So here you go, and good luck with that. Because that mirror is only going to illuminate your inability to manage your own emotional body, because the ego is not a good psychologist. The ego wants you to look outward and will climb every mountain and swim every ocean to find the answer, when all you have to do is click the ego off, sit in a quiet space and start to introspect. The ego doesn't know that. The ego's not going to say, hey, you, here's what you need to do. The ego is always looking outward. It's just the way it's made. It's what it's for. So the ego becomes a barrier, and I've talked about that. So throughout my life, this double-edged sword of my empathy has always been the stronger element, or the stronger urge in my wounded body, because it was easier for me to take care of you and then justify me being in more pain because I was taking care of you. So I was doing a thing that was good out of a sense of caring and love even, but I got damaged because I did it, and it's not my fault. I was doing something wonderful for someone else. So this is the double-edged sword of empathy, and the justification I always used for putting myself in danger. When I would look at my ex-husband, even the deepest pain that I was in, I always saw the best of him. I always saw that pure soul underneath this turbulent massacre of a storm I was in. And I would always justify staying and enduring because I saw the best in him, and I wanted to be here for him, and I wanted to heal him. This is the malady or the failure in the energetic body of an unhealed empathetic. Is we suffer because we think we're doing a good thing by taking care of others before we take care of ourselves. And I used this as the same example before. When you're on an airplane and the cabin pressure starts to drop and the masks of oxygen drop from the ceiling, and you put the mask on your neighbor and pass out because you don't have any oxygen, because you want to take care of your neighbor, that is the best really illustration of that I can give you. Is you're so intent on saving someone else that you let yourself die. So what have I learned now about that cabin pressure drop and the masks dropping? Is when that mask drops, I put it on my face first, and then I help my neighbor put it on theirs. You see what I'm saying? You cannot be there for others unless you are there for yourself first. Otherwise, you are energetically, emotionally, and your life force is drained. And this is why so many people walk around like zombies, because they give so much to external, elements of their life, people, situations, in a sense of guilt or obligation, that they don't feel themselves satiated or held by them, even themselves. So this is where the work needs to start. And this is why I died from this vampire draining. And I ended up in the hospital, and I went into this isolation period, and I emerged or reemerged or was reborn into this alien being that I've now embodied. And it's taken a long time because, and this is so interesting because I've always thought that I actually posted this on social media very recently, a quote or an excerpt from the book that I'm writing about all of this, the chronicle of all this, that I always thought that I was waiting for my twin flame to be ready for me. From what I understand, he's not ready. I'm going to be part of him becoming ready. My energetic connection with him, my magnetism, is going to catalyze an event in his life that will get him ready. I always thought I was ready, but he was still getting ready. But what's been happening for the last 3+ years is I've been going through this transformation that I've talked about at length in my podcast episodes, in the articles that are on my website, in the book that I'm writing. Every time something new happens, I discuss it. I've been going through this for more than 3 years now, 3 years and 3 months. And I thought that I was waiting for something outside of me to come into my life and to get me off into this new adventure. But what's been happening is I have been going through this expansion. And this is a very, very physical thing that I had to go through. So this is so extraordinary. I have a molecular structure, just like food and air and water does. We're all the same at the baser level. and we're all connected, and that's a whole nother story. But this molecular structure had to be modified in order to create the capacity for the the expansion of my energetic body. And I'm not a technician here or a scientist. I can only describe what I know. So what's been happening for the last 3+ years is these waves of energetic transformation, which come from the celestial world via the eclipses or alignment of planets or certain other celestial elements or events. When they come in, they have to be integrated. So I go through a period of deep rest where sometimes I'm so exhausted I can't do anything. And then I go into a phase where I become aware of what's happened, and it leaves me with seeds or drops of wisdom that I pick up, and they spread in my body like a ripple effect of a drop of water falling into a pond. And then that knowing enters my body energetically, and then it starts to filter through my body, and it comes through my third eye where I gain perspective. There's so much going on, and I'm not sure exactly how it works, but this is what I go through every time this happens. So no wonder I've been exhausted for 3 years, and no wonder I need so much rest. So without these periods of rest between these celestial deliveries, I would explode, and I wouldn't be able to maintain the capacity for all of this depth. Or I wouldn't call it weight because there's no weight to it, but this expansion, this expansiveness of this energetic being. And picture a galaxy, a spiral galaxy with full of stars and planets and stardust and nebula and all the things that are contained in this celestial body. That is what has entered my body. That is what I am now holding in this physical frame. And the molecular structure of my physical body had to be modified in order for that to work. So I have been under construction quite literally, and that's how it was put to me recently, that you're still under construction. I want to feel like I'm ready, but I'm still integrating all of this incredible energy. And I'm doing so for a very expressed purpose, because I am meant to carry out another phase of my life that is going to be on a different timeline, where I'm meant to disseminate this energetic capacity into the world through my vocation and through my relationship with my twin flame. So my capacity, this body's capacity, had to be expanded to capacity. And that's why I feel this embodiment or this alignment with all of this construction for the first time in my physical frame. So all of this is happening. I'm now going through this, I call it kind of the last phase of my training or my boot camp for this timeline jump, is this realization that I had from that one line in that reading that said, I've always looked to others to validate how I felt, exploded this understanding that my intuitive gift is the one part of me, the most powerful part of me, that throughout my life and probably many, many lifetimes before, I have ignored out of a fear that it made me different, that it made me, that it didn't fit in, and I was discounted and even persecuted. And I think of the witch trials of Salem as a really bright illustration of this, or as a powerful illustration, is somebody exposes or displays a gift, an intuitive gift beyond the ignorant human's understanding. And instead of embracing that person for what they might teach you or they might contribute to the community, you burn them at the stake as evil because they have something you don't understand. Woo! That's how this feels. And of course, I'm not in the Salem witch trials, thank God. I honestly believe that I was in another incarnation, and I've talked about that before, but not really that relevant now. But this is what I'm talking about, the persecution that an empathetic person goes through in their life when they're faced with others who don't have the capacity to understand or embrace what you might have as something they don't understand. So I have discounted this beautiful, powerful gift all of my lifetimes. And now is the time for me to embrace it. And there's so much more here. I don't want to go off track too much, but so I had this realization sitting on my couch after I documented this reading in my book. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, I always thought throughout this awakening, even this was hidden from me. I didn't realize that there was something deeper than the victimhood. And the deeper something is my broken intuitive channel. And it was described as me as the centerpiece of my incarnation in this life was to reconnect with my intuitive gift and embrace it. That this is the purpose that I came into this incarnation, was to heal this broken part of my energetic body, this open channel to source. And I was also told that I'm healing this for my bloodline, for my soul family, and my community. So this is how this energetic connection to all, and imagine a network of dots all connected together on all four sides. This is who we are from an energetic perspective. This is who we are from the perspective of Mother Universe. Her children are a blanket of energy, all connected together at every point, north, west, east, and south. We are not ever alone or disconnected. We just don't see that because we're in a sentient form. We came into this separate form to have a separate experience in order to learn these lessons. So I'm understanding now that this is the gift that I've been ignoring my whole life, and from what I understand, lifetimes up until now, that I was meant to come back into connectedness with. I was meant to heal. And by healing it, I'm healing it for all the life that I'm connected to. It spreads like a ripple through the universe and heals everything. This is how karma works. You're not just healing your own childhood wounds, you're healing it in your bloodline, for your community even. And this is why this work is so rewarding. And I was guided so expertly by my guides into this awakening. And now that I've integrated all of this power, I'm ready for this final phase of my reconstruction, which is to reconnect and to understand the connection that my intuition gives me to source energy, and to really fully embody it, to understand for the first time in this whole, even the awakening, that this is a reason why I came into this lifetime. And this is going to be integral for the next phase. So I'm thinking about all this stuff, and I didn't even realize this. So I describe this in my book as a rare pink diamond, that I've been gathering gemstones for this crown that this goddess wears, the embodied goddess that I am. And I've been gathering jewels all of my lifetimes, and I finally found the pink diamond that sits at the highest spot in this crown. The crown jewel is this rare pink diamond that I finally unearthed in this human body, in this incredible existence. That's how I described it, because that's what it is. This tool, this intuitive tool that we all have, and maybe not all as expressly as an empathetic or an empath does, but all of us have this intuitive channel, this connection to source wisdom, or even just our higher selves. Maybe we're not on a destined journey and we're not going to change the world, but we have this channel open to us if we clear the debris to hear and to listen. And so later that evening, after I had this realization that I've unearthed this jewel finally, I'm sitting on my couch and I'm thinking about how often this has replayed in my life, how many times that I have had this opportunity with this mirror and I have ignored my own body and trusted the other person. And it's still playing out. There's a situation that and I won't talk about this because it's personal again, but it happened very recently again, where I had to realize that there was a person in my life that I let go of because of an energetic imbalance. And I still allowed access to me. And I did this with my ex-husband even. I met with my ex-husband, I think it was 3 months ago now, I talked about this also, where I sat with him and I just said, I just wanted to tell you thank you and I love you and I appreciate you for what you did for me. We've been divorced for almost 4 years now. And I still didn't realize it until I had this realization. I still have an open channel or a thread that is still connected to him that I've left open. And this is that empathetic double-edged sword that up until just 2 days ago was still in my sheath of this warrior's costume. I still was exhibiting the same behavior because I didn't understand fully how powerful and dangerous my empathy is. And there are people who are known as dark empaths, which is again another subject matter I won't go into. But when I realized this later that evening, I was looking at my social media. I'm like, what am I doing? I still have an open channel to my ex-husband. And I went into my social media and I cut it off. And I said, holy cow. It was just such a revealing few hours for me to understand. Now I understood the true root of my karma was my lack of access or trust to my intuitive gifts. So now that I understand this, I can go forward. And the reason why, like I started to say, the reason why I went through this little exercise of recognizing, even though I had embraced my intuitive gifts at this point, I live from what I call the feeling center. The feeling center is the solar plexus. I don't think about my life unless I feel a certain way. I don't worry about things. I'm not concerned about anything. I don't think about money anymore, which used to be a main fear in my life, especially as a divorced woman in her late 50s. I didn't know how I was going to take care of myself. And I let all that go because I just know that if I feel a certain way and it prompts us an inspired action, that's what I do. I don't have to strategize because when I start to strategize, then I stress. When I stress, I'm blocking this intuitive channel. So this is how this all ties together. My childhood and what I went through throughout my life with my ex-husband, these realizations about my intuitive disconnection and how it's the primary gift that I was given for this lifetime or that I brought in. And healing it was the primary reason that I'm here. And I'm thinking about all this as I'm driving to the store yesterday about going into union with my twin flame, which I believe is going to be within a few weeks. And I'm having these realizations now as a final phase of my boot camp. Why? Because, oh, this is so interesting. Oh my goodness. Because I have to be reinforced from the inside out in order to play the role I'm meant to play in this relationship. And I won't go into too much detail until maybe a later date, I don't know. But what I'll say is that I have to be intuitively powerful in order to navigate what is coming. And all I'll say is that my twin flame and I are going to go through a very turbulent phase. And I have to be able to listen to my intuition, embrace it with trust and faith and love in order to navigate what is my role in this first reunion before this separation that's going to follow. That's all I can really say right now. And I don't mean to leave you hanging, but it's personal for him and I don't want to go there. So I have to be reinforced. This alien steel inside my body had to be galvanized against any old patterns coming up, against my double-sworded empathy, which is the reason why I went through this exercise of disconnecting from my ex-husband and one other person electronically or digitally, because I'd already broken off the relationships, but left that thread of access. I had to go through that exercise right before this, so I understood you cannot allow your empathy to take you to a place that you're not meant to go in this union. And this is what I know now. So I have to have this alien interior galvanized against my old tendencies. So I had to transmute that energetic imprint out of my body. And I did that by sitting in quiet And I imagined myself as a child, this little beautiful brown-eyed blonde girl who was misunderstood by her family, who was meant to cause her pain because I had a violent alcoholic mother, and I had a loving father who had his own demons, who that expressed themselves in his treatment of his daughter, by molesting his daughter. So I had these two parents who set the stage for this karmic life to unfold. So I went back to my childhood, and I found that little girl, and I picked her up in my arms. And I'm doing this with my eyes closed on the couch. This is one of the exercises that I learned throughout my awakening to connect with the depth of this wound. Is I went and picked up this little girl, and I held her in my arms, and I told her, I said, it's okay. We got this now. We're learning. We learned how to embrace this gift, and we're no longer going to suffer because of it. And I held her tight, and I said, you are safe. I have you. I got you. You have turned into this beautiful, powerful being. And all of this had a grand purpose. And it was not for no reason. And I just want you to know that I'm here and I love you. And I gently put her down, and I left her in my past. But she's always with me. She's always inside of me. Actually, she's alive again because this wonder, I live in absolute wonder of my life every day, like a little kid discovering the world for the first time. That's how I feel every day. That is the wonderment of our childhood that we're meant to connect with or remain. If we can remain in that childhood wonder throughout our lives, we remain connected to source energy. That's how we are connected, by the ego not controlling us, and that ethereal connection of our wonder and our joy, which is how that channel stays open. She's still inside of me. She's a part of this. She's enjoying this right along with me. So I had to go through this final test or series of tests in order for me to understand definitively that I cannot enter into this union without being galvanized against these old behaviors. So I transmuted them through this exercise with going back to my childhood self. And through just acknowledging orally, I just spoke it out loud, that I'm no longer controlled by my empathy, the double-edged sword of compassion and empathy. And I'm now connected with a stainless steel channel, or whatever, platinum channel, to my ethereal self, my higher self, and all of the wisdom of the universe that guides me right now. So when I enter into this union that's described to me, and this is the way it was described in the reading, it said, although you have created this extraordinary balance in your life, and I was told, I was congratulated by my spirit guides in this reading where they said, you have done what you came here to do. You have balanced the divine feminine and the divine masculine energies in your body. And what that means is the feminine in me was always there. The feminine is caring and kindness and empathy and unity and compassion and all of those lovely nurturing things. And the masculine is taking action and protecting your boundaries and fighting the enemy. I was never able to do the masculine part. I was always the divine feminine, toxified. So I was told that I've finally balanced these two powerful energies in my body, and they were congratulating me on this. But they said to me, we have to let you know that when you enter into this love union, it's going to be turbulent, that you're not going to be peaceful in it. And of course, it helped me to understand that everything I've learned about my twin flame over the last 3 years, all the love messages that I've received from his higher self. And this is the distinction that I want to make. I've been receiving love messages via social media since the middle of December of last year. It's the December 29th of 2024 today when I'm recording this. So 9 months I've been receiving love messages every single day, up to 4 and 5 a day if I look at it. If I keep looking, they're there. When I stop looking, sometimes I can only look at one. Sometimes I look at 3 or 4. It depends on how long or deep they are. All of them illustrating this beautiful man with this capacity to love an awakened woman. And this awakened man has to have his own divine feminine and divine masculine in balance. So he can't just be the protector warrior. He has to also be the empathetic, compassionate. That's how a man displays his balance. So that's who I fell in love with, is this high capacity, high vibrating entity. And that's exactly what it is, an entity. It is the higher self of this physical man sending me these messages. I don't know the physical man yet. He's not emailing me. It is his higher self who is already in union with my higher self. And both of them are orchestrating, along with our spirit family, this reunion to happen, and preparing each of us respectively or together for this union and what we're meant to do. So I fell in love with this 5D or 9D, 9-dimensional entity. And it's been made very clear to me now in the last week, in these daily messages that are up to an hour long, talking about who this man actually is going to be. He's not bad or evil. It's nothing like that. But I've been told this and given all this inside information so I could distinguish the fantasy that I've built up in my body about this man from the reality that I'm going to be entering into very soon. This is my spirit team saying, okay, you've been reconditioned and open for love. You're good. You're ready to go. You're in balance, feminine and masculine in balance. You're ready to enter this union. However, we have to send you to the front lines because you're the only one that can do it, because you've been fortified to do this. So these last 6 days, and they've not just been the last 6 days, there was another one yesterday that I didn't look at, and instead I looked at the one where where it talked about my intuitive gifts and opened up this whole revelation, or the day before, I don't remember what it was. The day before. And then yesterday, I did open another one about my twin flame, which mirrored the other 6. So you have to understand, this is my spirit team just filling me up with as many readings as I want to learn as much as I can about this union. And I can't look at too much at once because I have to integrate it. It is exhausting. But they're every day now in multiples, because they want me to understand that although you have gotten to this point in your personal evolution, embodying the true being, the true ethereal being that it occupies this body, who could only occupy it in part until my body was expanded to hold her capacity, which is why I feel like a giant right now. And all of that was done for this purpose. The exercise is about learning about my intuition and disconnecting from my ex-husband and this other person digitally, which I still left open because of this empathetic power in my body. Balancing this last little karma that I had to transmute is all because so I'm ready for this union. All these messages coming in, helping me understand what I'm going to be dealing with. This is how incredibly, they might as well be sitting in the room with me, coaching me on what I'm going to be facing when I run out onto the playing field. They're right here with me. They're speaking to me so clearly, they might as well be right here with me. This is the type of support, the caliber of support that I receive every single day. I'm not walking into this timeline shift uninformed. And they informed me to this level so I knew how to conduct myself, because the role that I'm playing in this is critical. It is a crucial element of what's meant to happen. So I have gone from being a participant or a receiver or playing a role in this lifetime to being part of its orchestration. They have enlisted me to now help orchestrate what's meant to happen. And I can't talk about that now. I will, I'm sure, down the road. But this is this is what I've been experiencing for the last 7 days, sitting all by myself in my house. It is just extraordinary what happens in this lifetime. Like I am beyond myself as a human, looking at the extraordinary elements of my human life, how it's being orchestrated by these bodiless beings, these disembodied spirits, these souls who are my soul team, who are guiding me literally by the hand into this next epoch, into this next lifetime that I'm going to be living. And I have to tell you this, and I wrote it in my book yesterday. And this is something that scared me a little bit at first, but this is an intuitive knowing. When I decided to take the advice of the dream I had 3.5 years ago, to 7:30 pull the trigger, and accept the invitation to go speak at this conference in Miami in next month, I didn't know how I was going to do this. I thought I would write a speech. I have to speak for 25 minutes. I would write a speech, I would memorize it, and I would go give a speech. This is what you do at a speaking engagement. But it took 5 minutes for me to realize, no, that's not what we're doing. And it scared me to think this. I'm like, what are you thinking? No, you can't do this. And what I knew almost in a moment, in a minute, in a second, was that I'm not going to prepare this speech. I have been doing this podcast for 2 years now, 2 years and 3 months, 2 years and something like that. This will be, I think, my 44th episode, I think, something like that. And from the very beginning, I was advised from the tarot, the original tarot readings, that I would be in my element doing this, and that I was just going to be raw and unfiltered and to just trust what came through me. So from the very, very first episode, which was only a few minutes, and I titled it Hi, because I had no flippant idea what I was doing, I knew that I was meant to just click on the microphone and start speaking. And in the very early episodes, I didn't even have a subject matter. I would just start to speak, and whatever I talked about is what the episode was going to be about. In later episodes, I have usually a subject matter, but I don't have any idea what I'm going to say, like today. No idea. I just knew there was something in my body that I was meant to speak about. And this is part of what I'm supposed to do. And part of what I'm going to be doing, maybe in a different medium in the near future. I don't know exactly how this is going to emerge, but I'm meant to have a vocation doing this beyond what I'm doing right now. So when I get on the microphone and I speak, I don't know what I'm going to say. And a lot of times that's completely evident in the beginning, because I'm like, and I left those in because I want you to understand this process for me. I don't edit all that out because I don't want to appear like a polished speaker, because I'm not. That's not the point. It's not to make me look good as a resource or to be trusted as a polished speaker. No, I am, this is going to sound so weird. I'm a blue collar Buddha. I mean, I'm a blue collar spiritualist. I'm not meant for that. I don't want to be on a pedestal. I don't want to be put aside like something. I don't even know. I can't even think of an example. That's how far disconnected I am from that image. I just want to speak the truth of my body. And that's what comes through me when I get on this microphone. So when I was telling myself, no, don't do it, I knew that when I go to speak at this conference, and this is going to be the very first time I speak in public, by the way. I have spoken in public when I conducted meetings as a manager. I would speak, I think, up to 150 people, but I never gave a speech, quote unquote. This will be the first one. And my friends, I'm going to wing it. And I've said to myself, no, you can't do that. And of course, myself said, well, yeah, that's what we're going to do. Because I knew that was what I had to do. This is this intuition that is so powerful that I can't argue with it anymore. And I trust her beyond any other element of my body, especially my brain, because my brain's always going to come with fear and logic. Well, what if this happens? Well, what if that happens? Then, oh, you can't do that. So I have completely let go of any expectations of how this speech is going to go. I don't know if I'm going to fall on my face, or if I'm going to say something brilliant, or if I'm going to break into a share song. I have no idea. So this is the most exhilarating and exciting and magical feeling in my body. And this is what we're meant to feel. This is when we are truly singing our whale song into the world. And when we can sing our whale song, and I'm not going to lecture you, I promise. When I can sing my whale song into the world, and what that means is I'm expressing myself from the most authentic and beautiful parts of me, not the fear or anxiety or distrust or insecurity part of me, my brain, my ego, but from my body, where this ethereal being now has control of all of me. And I picture the interior of my body now, the carbon-based, clunky, delayed reaction body that I used to have is now replaced with this crystalline alien tech with an integrated control center that my heart and my intuition control remotely. There's no more wires. There's no more delay from time space. It's all immediate, and it all comes from a cellular place in my body because my cells are now singing or tuned in to this alien intelligence that now runs my body. So I trust it explicitly. And I did learn that implicit and explicit kind of mean the same thing, a little different, so I can use them both interchangeably. So anyway, I explicitly trust my intuitive channel. It has become my whole body. And it's connected to my heart as well. So when I feel something heartfelt or I'm guided by my heart, if my energy aligns with it or I feel good about it, then I know it's a go. I don't have to know anything else. So back to this being validated by an external source, now I know that when I walk up to someone or I go into some sort of transactional relationship, like a business or a romantic relationship or a friendship, if my heart is open but my energy backs off, I back off. And I don't give a flying rat's ass what you say about it. If you do not have an interest in my evolution, if you don't have an interest in my well-being and the care and custody of my gentle, empathetic, compassionate, beautiful body, F off. You have no access to me. Period. And this is what I had to learn just 2 days ago. That's the difference between who I was as an awakened woman embodying a partial being now to this fully embodied goddess who understands the double-edged sword that I carried my entire life. My intuition is above reproach. Because I cleared this body of all the debris that stood in the way of this channel, I now have a galvanized source of wisdom that I can rely on without failure. And I could have relied on this my entire life if it were meant for me to come into this lifetime with a fully formed and fully functioning intuition. I would have had a completely different life. I certainly would not have met my ex-husband, who was the biggest mirror. He was a building-sized mirror for me to finally break down and break free of this. So just think of it this way, how karma works. If I did not need to learn this lesson, I would have never had a soul contract with my ex-husband. I would have never met him. He would have been under contract with somebody else who needed that lesson. So this is why when I say I graduated humanity, I know that there's no other lessons that I need to learn. So I'm not calling energetically, but with my energetic signature out to the universe for healing, which when I call out for healing, the body calls out. You can ask with your mouth all you want, but the body, the energetic frequency is what calls out to the universe for what you need. And they always answer you in kind. It just may not come to you in the way you want it, but it does come to you. It's just in the form of a lesson. And if you can learn the lesson, you got your wish. Do you know what I'm saying? So I would have not, I don't know, I no longer need to learn these human lessons to evolve my soul. So that's why I refer to this as my graduation. and why my spirit guides also, by congratulating me on the balance of my divine feminine and masculine, are basically telling me that that's what I have achieved. Because until you can balance both of these energies in your body, you are not in balance, or energetically, you're not aligned with your higher self and the purpose of your incarnation. And when I do my energy exercises, I do what's called a torus exercise, where I move the energy around me like an apple up and around me, signifying the connection between the cosmic source energy that comes down through my crown chakra and through all of my energetic motors, which are my chakras, and down into the earth, and then through the earth and back up around me and down around again. It's like an apple shape or a torus that cycles this energy from source through my body down into the earth and back around, and again and again. This is how I remain calibrated with my higher source, with source energy, with my higher self, and this earth energy, which calibrates or is aligned with that energy. These are beings. This beautiful earth we're living on is a being, just like we are, just in a different form. She is my mother. And I go stand on her and speak to her every day, because she is a source of my health. She's a source of my my ability to manage this human molecularly structured body. The physical aspects of me are healed and are supported by her. The food I eat, the water I drink, the air I breathe, the sun and moonlight, which are the fire that satiate this body, illuminate me. The elements and this earth, the sun and the moon, all the planets, the stars, everything, every living thing is a network. So I understand that my human body is physically supported by all of these elements, and I engage with that on a regular basis. So my human body is held and supported by this earth and all the physical elements of my life here. And of course, the intangibles too, the elements and so on. So that's how I keep my body strong and healthy. I exercise, I move every day, I eat healthy foods. I have become an accidental vegetarian. I don't know when it happened, but I no longer eat meat. And I gave up eggs, which was the last thing I was eating, of just a couple of weeks ago. I just decided I wasn't going to eat it anymore. And I really didn't make a decision for any reason. I'm not against eating animals. I believe that it is a part of a part of the human existence to enjoy all the bounty of the earth. And I remember a reading where it once said that, or maybe it was a Pleiadian book, where it said animals don't mind being eaten. They just want to be treated humanely. That's the difference between slaughtering and raising an animal and lovingly killing it. And in the movie Avatar, this is really illustrated beautifully, where he finally learns to embody the I forget what they're called, the blue person, the blue beings. When he kills the animal for food, he thanks it and sends it back to Iwa, which is their god or goddess. That is the difference between the way we raise and slaughter and the way that it needs to be handled. The example came through which said lions eat animals. We are not here not to enjoy the bounty of the earth. I am not against eating animals because I have a belief system that underpins it. I just stopped eating meat, which I believe is my soul saying, we're not eating meat anymore. And I don't know if it's because where I live, there's very little available that is humanely or conscientiously harvested or raised. I live in the Midwest. Everything that we have is trucked in. And I know there are local farms. Whenever I find local produce, I buy it, because we're meant to eat food from the soil that we live on. That's the spiritual connection to the earth that we live on. We cultivate that earth and we eat from it. That's our connection. We eat food trucked in from other countries, and I don't have access to a lot of clean food. And I think my awareness of this at a human level, and of course my soul is saying, no, we're done here. There's nothing good to eat. So I have really, all I eat anymore are vegetables and grains. That's it. I don't drink anything other than clean water with lemon, which lemon balances your pH. So a shot of lemon every day balances your pH. That's what the Pleiadians told me. I didn't research it. I believe it. And clean, healthy food from where you live, ideally. So I am apparently a vegetarian now. And I don't know if that's because maybe when I move away to this other country, maybe then there'll be clean food for me to eat and maybe I will eat it again. I don't know. I'm not making any exclamations, but it's just interesting that this has become, or this is an element of this full embodiment is I no longer eat meat. So and I shouldn't say that definitively because when I'm at my daughter's and there's nothing else to eat, I will eat it. But I think, so I'm never going to say I'm a vegetarian, quote unquote, but I don't cook or go out for meat anymore. And I don't know that I will continue to eat it even at my daughter's. I don't know yet. I'm just going to wait and see what happens. But anyway, not to digress too far off into the ditch, but I just wanted to share all that with you today. I feel complete. I'm starting to think, which tells me it's time to go. I wanted to share that with you, and I appreciate you so much listening, and I cannot wait to speak to you again. Thank you.